I really appreciate it.
Yes.
So next slide, please. Okay, Manaf, it's your turn.
Stereoscopic Converse of Spain made the first contact in 1492. Ma'am, everything only paragraph referred. Ma'am, I have to read this slides.
Yes.
Yeah, I have
Yes,
to read
full slide.
paragraph.
Full slide.
Okay.
Full slide.
He had learned in the East Indias, and that is how he called them Indians. The East Indians are composed of the Philippines, Indonesia, Born and New Guinea.
That is a hard word, New Guinea. So I'll read it. European contact. Christopher Columbus of Spain made...
New Guinea?
It's New Guinea. Yeah, I'll read it though. Christopher Columbus of Spain made the first contact in 1492. He thought he had landed in the East Indies. Notice that that's IES, not India, but East Indies. And that is why he called them Indians. The East Indies are comprised of the Philippines, Indonesia, Borneo, and New Guinea. Next slide, please. Okay, Daksh.
Yeah. The first Native Americans were hunter-gatherers. They slowly traveled or migrated to fill in North and South America. Native Americans started different civilizations influenced by the area where they settled.
So they're part of the land. So if the land is different, the ecology is different, their customs are different. So isn't she beautiful with her beautiful head garment and beads? And let's go to the next slide.
This is the next slide. Should I go further?
Yes, please. Okay, Manav, can you read that one, please?
Yeah. One early settlement was established.
Established. That means started.
Established at Close, New Mexico in the southwest USA. This was about 13,000 years ago.
Archaeological.
Archaeological study of according to
ancient culture.
Ancient culture develops in
Discoveries
in the area shows the used
Ivory, like the tusk of an elephant.
Yeah.
Ivory and stone tools.
I'll tell you something really amazing. Long ago, when they were here, we had elephants in North America back in the day. Not anymore. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. And keep going. There we go. And Daksh.
Yeah, the Native Americans were grouped into tribes or nations usually based on the area they lived in and their culture, such as their religion, custom, and language. Sometimes smaller tribes were part of bigger nations. Head of the tribe was called a chief.
And interestingly enough, the word chief comes from a French word, chef, which means leader. And I just wanted to compliment you, Daksh, because when you were reading, your choice of words that you stressed were perfect, right on. Sometimes when we read, we say it very monotone, like sometimes smaller tribes were part of a bigger nation. But when you read it, you said sometimes smaller tribes were part of a bigger nation. You chose certain words to stress, and that's what we want to do as good English speakers. Way to go. Okay, next slide, please. There's a chief.
Ma'am, can I read?
The next one. Yes, let's look at the next slide.
Tribal, the
Wait.
Native
Right.
American.
Next slide, please.
Okay.
Now we're going to learn about clans, and I think there's several bullets. So if you want to keep clicking, sir, and one more. Okay, and there we go. Manaf, your turn.
A clan was a device of the tribe based on a common
Ancestor.
Mhm.
ancestor. Each clan had its own symbol or spirit that gives the clan its name. Many of the clan names were animals. Examples of clan names include bear, deer, hawk,
Hawk.
fox, shoes, and water.
Snow and water. Okay, nice one on that. I liked how, as you were reading along, you remember that in English, A says a. So you kind of developed that word clans better and better as you went through the reading. A clan was a division of a tribe based on a common ancestor. Each clan had its own symbol or spirit that gave the clan its name. Many of the clan names were animals. Examples of clan names include bear, deer, hawk, snow, which is, weather, and water. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Food, yum. Okay, there you go, Doc. I'm sorry that when it's not easy to see, but do the best you can do. Not all the words are showing.
I will show.
Yes, ma'am. Food. Depending on the tribe and
Probably the place.
the place they lived in, Native American obtained their food by different methods, including farming, hunting, fishing, and gathering. The main crops that the Native American grew was corn,
Probably
which they called maize. Tribes in Southeast Asia were skilled farmers.
Excellent. You win the prize for making up words in English. Good job. Let's go to the next slide, please.
Wow.
Okay, living off the land. This is a big deal. This has also got words that are not on there. So how about if I read it first and Manaf, you read it second? Living off the land, hunting and fishing provided protein. In the Great Plains of the USA, bison herds were very important. These animals not only provided meat, but also hide for something, clothing, blankets, shelter. The horns provided tools and weapons. Their culture was mindful of the life given by the animal, and no part of the animal was wasted. So, sir, let's just move to the next one, because that one was really not got all the words on it. My fault. Okay, there we go, Manaf.
Hunter-gatherers, tribes use plants
Right.
and grain. Tribes use
Plants.
plants that grow around them. Plants that grow around them. They would gather fruits, nuts, or berries to supplementary
There.
Supplement, you said it.
supplementary they did
Diet.
Diet.
that Native Americans used nuts to catch fish. The fish were other smoked so they could be
Preserved.
preserved during winter months when food was scarce.
Yes.
Scarce, when food was
Yes.
scarce. Okay, so tribes used plants that grew around them. They would gather fruits, nuts, and berries to supplement their diet. Native Americans used nets to catch fish. The fish were often smoked so they could be preserved during winter months when food was scarce. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. And Doc, your turn.
Yeah. Native Americans lived in various types of homes. Some lived in small, easy to move tent, also,
Called it teepee.
also called teepee. These were used by nomadic tribes located in the Great Plains. Others lived in permanent housing made of different type of materials such as clay
And that's
or
called a pueblo. Pueblo.
pueblo, wood and bark, longhouses, wigwams, and snow igloos.
Okay, so the snow is in the great north, like so it'd be in the Arctic Circle. And so you'd only see igloos probably in Alaska or Canada. Let's go to the next slide, please. And there's what, do you know what that's called? Of all those types of houses?
Then
I'm going to
temporary
give,
house.
it's a teepee. It's a temporary house that they could pick up and move. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Clothing.
Here. Clothing. Manav, can you read about clothing?
Manav,
Okay.
unmute,
Manav,
unmute, unmute,
you're on
Manav.
mute.
Clothes were handmade by the women of the tribal. These women were very skillful,
Women.
and women were very skillful at turning the hide into soft
Supple.
shuffle leather and cutting and
Sewing.
swing it
You got it.
it together to make garment.
Garments. Uh-huh.
Garment. They love to discover clothing with features for
Porcupine quills. A porcupine is like a hedgehog. It's got spikes on it. And if you look at the V-neck of that shirt, you can see that's quill work. It's all made with the sharp spines of these porcupines that they would gather the quills from. This is an actual picture that I took in a museum when I was on my trip. And I thought that was especially beautiful. They're known for their beading as well. So lots of work went into making that leather so supple and so bendable.
Ma'am, in museum it was written there what is the price of this dress?
They would not sell it. It's priceless, really. And to get that in a museum, someone had to donate it, which is pretty special because that took hours and hours, didn't it, to make something that beautiful. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Wow.
Transportation. There we are. That's an Appaloosa horse, famous. You can see in ancient China, you would often see pictures of spotted horses, but only in the area that I live in the United States, the Pacific Northwest. That's where this tribe actually bred the Appaloosa horses. They're very, very special. So Appaloosa. And Daksh, can you read about transportation?
I think they are rarely found.
Yes,
This
They're
breed of
rarely
horses.
found. Totally. Yeah.
transportation. The spotted Appaloosa horse is one of the most distinctive and valued American horse breed in the world. The name may originate from palos, which referred to a grassy region where they came from. It is likely that these horses originally came from a variety of Spanish horses, so-called spotted horses, that were traded into the northwest by the mid to late 18th century. The horses were then bred by the Nez Perce tribe.
And
Now,
the
what is
French,
the Nez
they're
Perce tribe?
beautiful. I think you read that so well. I'm not going to read it again. I'm going to assert. What do you think of that picture, though?
So, it's looking like a beautiful horse.
It
I
is.
think it must be a very rare horse found in America.
And I think, don't you think, with all the beautiful saddle and all around its neck, they must really value this horse. And even on its head, it's got a special little
Yeah.
plate. Yeah. So they
Like
value
a
this.
crown.
Like a crown. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir. Very
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, Manav, can you read the first bullet, please?
Yes, ma'am. The Native Americans had every strong
Spiritual,
Spiritual, like religious.
spiritual beliefs. Nature played a hug rule in their everyday. They lives every trip developed a unquil belief
unique
system
belief system.
Let's go on. We'll go back to that.
that was passed down through the generation using stores and rituals.
Rituals and stories. Okay, so when we go through line number 3, every tribe developed a unique belief system. Unique was one of our vocabulary words, and it means unusual. So when you see that unique, and the QUE says just unique belief system. So Daksh, can you read the middle bullet, please?
Yeah. Some tribes believe that every living thing had its own guardian spirit. This included plants, people, animals, and even mountains and water.
Okay, and Manav, can you read the last one?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I did make a terrible mistake though. Instead of peach pipe, peach is like a fruit, it should say peace pipe. Ugh, spell check didn't catch that. So ceremony of the peace pipe. Go ahead, Manav.
Okay. The garments of the peace
Stop,
Ceremony.
stop. When
Ceremony.
you look at that, when you're reading in English, if a C is followed by an E, sometimes it's not going to be a sound. It's going to be like an S sound. So try ceremony. Okay, there you go.
ceremony
Yes.
Ceremony of a peace pipe was passed around as a way of communities with the great spirits.
Okay, so when you are reading, Manav, be sure that you look at the very end of the word. You're super good at the beginnings of words, but when you see ing, what's it say? Try that word.
Communicating.
Communicating. Very good. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Go ahead and click it one more time. This is pretty interesting. I remember learning about this and thinking, wow, that's an interesting way of coming of age. So, Doc, can you read about this?
Yes, ma'am. But I have to read one bullet or whole slide.
You can read. I think we'll go ahead and we will read the whole thing.
Okay. Coming of age. Young boys needed to find their guardian spirit before becoming men. The tribe celebrated the coming of age passage from being a child to an adult. To become closer to the spirit world, it was not uncommon to tribal members to go off on a visualization quest to see the spirit world. Then they came back. They would choose a name based upon their encounter, such as lone
Wolf. Yeah, lone wolf. Okay. So any questions about that? Because I think this will explain it more if we go to the next slide. And go ahead and Doc, she read that so well, I don't need to read it again. Okay, so here's an example of somebody that came back from their spirit quest. And you're going to learn about different Indians or Native Americans that came back. This is little wound. That word is so hard. It looks like wound. But if you think about when you read about him, he was wounded, he was hurt. So he was little wound. And this picture was taken in 1899.
Excuse
So
me, ma'am.
Manaf, it's your turn. Oh,
Excuse
sir,
me,
would
ma'am.
you gonna say something?
Yeah, may I ask you something? What this quill? Is it a quill? What they are using behind their head?
Those are eagle feathers. That's a
Yes.
great
So,
question. I'm glad you asked that. For each brave thing they did,
oh, it is like a
an
medal.
eagle feather. Yeah. And only it's against the law in the United States for anyone to collect eagle feathers. So if I was to find an eagle feather, even where I live on the ground, I would have to give it to a Native American because I, by law, can't have them. So what was happening is the eagles were being hunted and they were becoming extinct. So there are our national bird in the United States. So only Native Americans can wear them or have them. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Manaf, are you ready? You can do it. He's turned
Manaf.
off. Hey, Manaf.
Sir,
It's
wait
you.
a minute, sir. I'm
Breathe,
putting my
breathe.
phone on, sir. Wait. Okay, I will put on.
Is he busy?
Uh,
Can you see that?
yes, ma'am. As a younger man, Little Wood battled with other Native American tribals. After many years, Little Wood become a advocate in the ghost dance movement, which wanted a place with Europe and the United States. He spent the ends of his life speaking of place, which is what he said he looked when he was young.
So you read that very well, but I want you to think about it. It would make more sense, Manaf, if you had said the word peace. He wanted peace. So, and because remember, he was wounded, he was hurt in war when he was little. So he joined, Little Wound became an advocate in the ghost dance movement, which wanted peace with Europe and the United States. He spent the end of his life speaking of peace, which is what he said he lacked or didn't have when he was young. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. It does.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, your turn, Doc.
Yeah, ma'am. Chief Red Bird, 1927. Red Bird grew up on the Great Plains. His tribe had a strong basis of ritual, spirituality, and familial connection. They initially stayed on one location, but over time they became a nomadic tribe, moving across the Great Plains in search of the sun.
Bison is like and we don't call them buffalo. We used to call them buffalo, but it's American bison was the primary way that they would hunt. So look at his eyes. What do you think about those eyes?
And they are very sharp and like
Two of the adjectives Native Americans say about themselves, how they see themselves, they like freedom and they are proud. So does he look proud and free in this?
Yeah, she looks very brave as for her face. She
Yeah.
looks like a leader.
Actually it's a man. Yeah, he's a
Ah,
man.
but the face is resembling like a woman also, little bit.
Well, and may I say
Yeah.
something? I think
Yes, sir.
probably because they don't have facial hair. Oftentimes the Native Americans they completely lack facial
Oh,
hair.
oh,
So yeah. So that's why his skin is so smooth.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, handsome man, very handsome man. And then again, he was nomadic, so he lived in the teepee.
Hmm.
And by the time this picture was taken, he was on a reservation, meaning while you were gone, I was saying that the reservations are like their own little country, their own laws right within the United States.